Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to our online webcast for February 19, 2016. My name is Christian Debré, and this is Amy Hasbrook,
Hello.
the director of Toujours Vivant Not Dead Yet. So, Toujours Vivant Not Dead Yet is a non-religious organization by and for people with disabilities and our allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to disability rights opposition to assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other ending of life practices that discriminate against people with disabilities. Today's topics. 10 people have been euthanized in Quebec. Prime Minister Trudeau may force Liberals to vote the party line on assisted suicide. A study of 60 cases of euthanasia for psychiatric reasons in the Netherlands shows 70% were women. And join us in Ottawa on March the 8th. So, Amy Hasbrook will be our speaker.
Thanks.
And yours. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks. So around 10 people have been euthanized in Quebec, according to a report by Radio-Canada, which is the French service of the national broadcaster. Since the euthanasia program began 2 months ago, around 10 people have been euthanized in Quebec. And so if you think of that as 2 months, 10 people, that's 5 people a month, that's 60 people a year at least.
And it is for the first year. And we know by the experience of 2 other countries that it is an exponential curve. The number will increase every year.
Right. And the other thing we know is that the study for this year's statistics for Oregon have just come out, and they had a 26% increase this year. And since they're always over 100, that means more than 25 more people had assisted suicide in Oregon this year. So it's a pretty large number to start with, and it's probably going to get bigger before it gets, well, it won't get smaller, unfortunately. Health Minister Gaëtan Barrette believes the program is going according to plan.
Which plan exactly?
Right, the plan where they said it would be only a handful of people who would need this, except for now we already have 2 handfuls of people who have had it.
Yeah, it's already too much. It's supposed to be very, very rare, and right now we experiences too much people already.
Right, exactly. But others believe the lack of doctors willing to participate and ignorance about the program are causing delays in the program. So some people who want assisted suicide haven't gotten it yet because there either aren't enough doctors or because people are applying who aren't eligible for the program. Dr. Christian Martel, president of the Quebec Association for Palliative Care, estimates that only about 1% of doctors are willing to kill their patients. She points out that supporting the idea of euthanasia is not the same thing as being willing to do it.
Yeah, practice is not the same thing as the theory.
Right, exactly. So all these people, all these doctors who said that they thought it was a good idea, and
but for others, not
right,
for him.
Right, National Assembly based, oh well, all the doctors think it's a good idea, so we're going to do it. All these doctors all of a sudden don't want to be killing their patients, which is correct. But, you know, why were they willing to, why were they coming forward saying it was a good idea if they weren't willing to do it themselves? And I think that's right that they don't want to do it themselves. It's just that
that's a normal reaction.
We're stuck with a bad situation because everybody thought, oh, what a good idea.
But it's a kind of good bad idea.
Right, exactly.
Bad good idea.
Palliative care Dr. Louis Roy said some people who are applying don't meet the eligibility criteria. And he estimates that it takes 5 to 8 hours over several days for a doctor to pursue the process with the applicant. So that's just to do the application. And of course, the doctor who does it has to be willing to do the euthanasia. So there are very few doctors who are willing to screen the applicants, which is part of why it's taking a long time. So they won't let anybody screen an applicant unless the doctor is willing to kill the person.
So it's kind of difficult for them. They are caught with the problem.
Right, exactly. Doctors also don't want to risk the uncertain legal status of the law or get stuck with these requests, according to the report.
Yeah.
So because it's still unsure what's going to happen legally, because even if the law passes, if the federal law is adopted, it's not clear what it means that the Quebec law will be different from the federal law. Some doctors are afraid that that could cause problems. And also, there's never been any test as to whether the euthanasia law violates any Quebec Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So that will be another thing to test. Finally, Health Minister Barrett says Quebec will begin a public information campaign at the end of February to educate people about the program. And that sounds like it would be pretty weird.
That's weird. You start a program, and after it's started, you train people for apply it.
Right.
It's a backward thing. I don't.
Right.
Doesn't seem to be very right.
Yeah, you would think that they would have had the public education plan before the program started, so that everybody would know what they were doing. But apparently, they're starting it after, and we don't know what it's going to look like, this public education campaign.
Anyway, it doesn't look nice right now.
Right. Right now there's a lot of people having euthanasia, and we don't know if there's a lot of ineligible people having euthanasia because, we don't have the information. There's no information coming out, and we won't know.
And we don't think about personal information. What we need is what is the cause of the death, which is assisted suicide or euthanasia, and maybe the date and some very basic information, so the government could keep track of things and make sure that they could do a sociologic analysis and statistic at the end.
Right. We don't know what information the government is collecting about these people. We don't know if they're collecting what the underlying condition is. We don't know if the government is collecting information about whether these people were rejected once and then they went and found another doctor who allowed the assisted suicide. We don't know any of that. And we won't know anything until September, when the commission puts out its first report. But if it's anything like in Oregon, we won't have enough information to make a good judgment about how the program is going. Okay, so our second topic is Prime Minister Trudeau may force Liberals to vote the party line on assisted suicide. Before the proposed law is even drafted, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is forcing Liberal MPs to vote the party line on a federal assisted dying bill. So they haven't even written a law yet, and he's already telling them how to vote.
And it's again the transition of the parliament right now.
Right. He says that the caucus must vote to uphold the charter right that was found by the Supreme Court, and that charter right is to have assisted suicide. It's not to have palliative care. It's to have assisted suicide. They
guarantee you that you will die, but they don't guarantee you that they will care for you.
Right, exactly.
Before.
Right.
It's something fishy about it.
Yeah. The Conservatives and New Democratic Party have stated that the members will be allowed to vote their conscience on this controversial issue. Traditionally, such personal questions of conscience are left up to the individual MPs.
And normally, in our parliament, the transition is very important. And right now, we stopped to use it. But it's not new to liberals. You just have to think what happened with Quebec and the Constitution.
Right.
They turn against this province after doing some promises.
Right. And you know, the Liberals complained a lot about Stephen Harper exerting too much control over his party members and not letting them vote their conscience. And right now they're doing exactly the same thing. So it's a little bit like the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
Okay, our next topic is a study of 66 cases of euthanasia for psychiatric reasons in the Netherlands shows that 70% were women. So 70% of the people, of those 66 people who were euthanized were women. That's 7 in 10. That's more than 2 to 1.
Yeah, it's something unbalanced because in average, there is half women, half men in the world. Plus or minus 50-50. And when you diverge from this number, you create kind of a discrimination and inequality,
Right.
which is not good.
Right. And, you know, you could see 55-45, that's, you know, a little bit off. But 70-30, that's way off. And in fact, that's as far off. Jack Kevorkian, who was known as Dr. Death, who used to help people have assisted suicide back in the 1990s, he also helped 70% of his people were women that he helped to assisted suicide. So, and people complained back then that it was sexist, what he was doing, because so many of the people were women. So this is a similar situation.
So the system doesn't work properly right now.
Right.
That we are sure of it. What is going wrong, we don't know, but the system doesn't work properly.
Right. A study was published on February 10th in the Journal of the American Medical Association Psychiatry, their psychiatry journal, describing 66 cases of euthanasia in the Netherlands for psychiatric reasons between 2011 and 2014. Of these cases, 70% were women, which we've already said. 55% had depression, and most had more than one condition, such as personality disorders, autism, PTSD, or anxiety.
And the law is supposed to protect people who are weak. And this is a proof that it doesn't work. Because if you are depressed or you have any kind of sickness that is you are not dying on, you're supposed to be protected. But it's not happening.
Right, exactly. And, you know, generally, suicide prevention is supposed to prevent suicides of people who are depressed. And when somebody's depressed, one of the symptoms of being depressed is wanting to commit suicide. So you should be able to guess if somebody's depressed, then they'll want to commit suicide and try to prevent that. That's sort of the main goal of treatment. And if they're not getting that treatment, then that's a problem. 58% of the people had another illness, such as heart disease or diabetes. So they had more than half had a physical illness along with the psychological illness. Another, more than half had attempted suicide. That means that they had, cried for help.
Yeah, that's what study, and it's scientific. It was very, very studied. People who try to commit suicide is doing a call for help.
Yeah.
That's what they are doing. They doesn't want really to die. They want to stop suffering. They want to have an ending of their problem, but they doesn't really want to die. They call for help.
Right, exactly. And 80% of the people had been hospitalized. So these are people who have been through this mental health system and they've tried to get help in the past for what's going on.
Without success.
Obviously. 56% of the people said that they were lonely or isolated. And that's a social problem.
Sociological problem.
Right.
That this is the society who create the problem. they doesn't get support from the society around there.
Right, exactly. That's a problem, that it's not just a psychological problem that you can make somebody take a pill and it'll go away. It's a sociological problem, but there are ways to deal with that. But if they didn't deal with those problems, then obviously the person isn't going to feel connected and isn't going to want to live. In 41% of the cases, a psychiatrist performed the euthanasia, but in 11% of the cases, that's more than 1 in 10, there was no independent psychiatric consultation.
And they was killed because of psychological problem.
Right.
Very, very fishy.
Right, so they came to their doctor with a psychological problem, and the doctor didn't even bring in a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
And a normal doctor doesn't know a damn thing about psychology, not more than you and me.
Right. So in 24% of the cases, this is almost a quarter, there was disagreement among the physicians as to whether euthanasia should go forward. So that means even when there was disagreement, which was in a quarter of the cases, they went ahead anyway and did the euthanasia. Now, it seems to me that if there's disagreement, it should go the way of not killing the person instead of going away the way of killing the person.
That's obvious for me, and it's supposed to be obvious for everybody. But in one case over 4, this is not happening. The system doesn't work, because if there is disagreement, it's not supposed to carry on. It's supposed to stop, and you are not supposed to be eligible for the assisted suicide. But they kill those people.
Yeah, yeah. Many of the people had tried various treatment, but some had refused treatments for their conditions. So, we don't force people to take treatments for their conditions, but
it's a right.
Right, but there are a lot of people who had tried different treatments, and it's not clear that the medical system had done all it could to help these people. And I know that it's hard to get the medical system to respond and to really get the help you need from the medical system. So that may be what happened, is people tried different things but got discouraged because they weren't getting the help they needed. It's worrisome that autistic people are among those who are requesting and receiving euthanasia, because in North America, there's a neurodiversity movement of people who are of autistics who don't see autism as a disability. So, well, they see it as a disability, but they don't see it as a problem so much as the way they're treated. And they understand that a lot of times autistics are killed because people don't want them around, or it's seen as an act of mercy to kill an autistic person.
Yeah,
So,
but the trouble is not the autistic. The problem came from the view and the sense of perception of the people who look at the autistic.
Right, exactly. So this is something that autistics need to be aware of, that this is happening, that under the guise of people are asking for and receiving euthanasia for the psychological reason of having autism. And one of the most troubling statistics is that 70% of these euthanasias were women. It makes you wonder why the men were not selected. It kind of does.
Because they select women, not men.
Right, exactly.
It's discrimination. That's the only thing that we could think about.
Right.
Discrimination.
Women attempt suicide 3 times more than men do, which is going back to the cry for help. But men have a higher completion rate. So when men attempt, they complete the suicide more often than women do.
They use more violent solutions.
Yeah. Assisted suicide seems designed to equal even these odds. So instead of a woman crying for help when she fails at a suicide attempt,
we will egalize it.
we will
they
make
will
her
they will be killed.
assure that her suicide attempt will be completed. That's not really the
That's normally supposed to be the opposite. We should
Yeah.
fight against suicide.
right.
Because in my book, any suicide equals another one.
Right.
There's no good suicide or bad suicide. A suicide is a suicide. And I don't know what the group who are opposing suicide doing in this case, because if they don't do anything, it means that they think that a suicide of old people or sick people the life of those people are less valuable than other people.
Right.
This is discrimination too.
Right, exactly. Several feminist scholars who have looked at assisted suicide believe it is especially dangerous for women. They believe that women request assisted suicide, and it is granted for reasons that have a lot to do with gender. And here are some of them. Women are expected to sacrifice themselves for the sake of their families and for those around them. And we hear it when women say, oh, I'm a burden on my family now because I can't take care of other people anymore. Women are expected to take care of other people until the very end. And if they can't take care of people, then their whole reason for being is gone. Whereas if, even when men can't work, they still have the role of being the person that their wife takes care of.
Yeah, for men it's just kind of normal to be care of. But women is the opposite. They're supposed to be the people who care for everybody else.
Right.
So if they are not able to do it again,
right.
they are less valuable and being discriminated and killed.
Right, exactly. Also, women have a hard time getting health care. Most health care and studies are based on male models. Most studies about heart disease and stuff all the subjects are male. They don't study females as much. And so it's harder for women to get good health care. And so that means that women often end up with illnesses and stuff that are disabling, but they may go longer with an illness without getting it treated than a man would.
Yeah.
Also, women often get poor pain relief, and sometimes physical problems are written off as psychological problems. So when women say they're in pain, everybody says, oh, it's not that bad, you're just, being hysterical.
And it's not the truth, because there is many studies proving that women have higher tolerance to pain than men. And there is many proof of that. But in the meaning, in the thinking of people, women crying for nothing, which is not true. Right,
exactly. And this came out, a lot of women were getting fibromyalgia, and nobody, everybody said, oh, it's all in your head. But then after the Gulf War and the wars in Afghanistan, a lot of men started getting the same problem. And all of a sudden, everybody recognizes fibromyalgia and other diseases like that. Because once men started getting them, now it's a real disease. So that's the kind of problems that women have had in getting health care. Women have higher rates of depression than men. And obviously depression, because one of the symptoms of depression is wanting to die and wanting to commit suicide, that puts women in danger.
But to cure you, they kill you.
Right, exactly.
So you're not depressed anymore. It doesn't exist.
Right, exactly. And right now, instead of curing people, instead of helping them, they're saying, well, sure, if you want to die, we'll help you out. We'll help you to die. And men have lower rates of depression just because men tend to express their feelings more out externally than women do. So women, it kind of eats them up from inside.
Yeah.
Requests for assisted suicide may be an effort to change an oppressive situation. So oftentimes women find themselves in like a domestic violence situation, they see no way out other than to die. So that is another place where women get trapped, and assisted suicide looks like a good way out for them, even though it means they die. And finally, gender expectations may affect the physician's decision about whether or not to grant the request. All these factors about what is expected of women and what is their role and whether they're making up a problem or whether they really are sick or in pain. All those things affect the way doctors look at women and could affect whether the doctor decides that the woman is eligible for assisted suicide or not. So all of these problems related to sexism can affect the fate of women who request assisted suicide. Okay, our last item is join us in Ottawa on March 8th.
Very important.
Yes. On March 8th, from noon to 2 p.m., the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition is presenting a parliamentary luncheon at the Sir John A. Macdonald office building at 144 Wellington Street in Ottawa. This would be a great opportunity for anyone who wants to tell their MPs why strong safeguards are so important on a bill that will be adopted by Parliament this spring. For more information, contact the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition at info@epcc.ca, and I'll repeat that, it's info@epcc.ca, or by calling 877-439-3348. Or you can call us at 450-921-3057. And I'll repeat those phone numbers again. The Euthanasia Prevention Coalition at 877-439-3348.
And we will have 2 places in our car if somebody wants to come with us.
Yeah. Or you can contact us at 450-921-3057. So to view our videos, you can go to YouTube or go to the search engine of your choice and input the words euthanasia and disability, and that will lead you to our videos.
You will find it easily.
You'll find it easily. To participate live, send me your email address and I will send you a link to join us live, and that will arrive about 15 minutes before the video, and I'll give you our email address in just a minute. For more information on the subjects that we discuss, visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/toujours vivant, not dead yet, all one word. You can go to our website at tvndy.ca. You can send us an email at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow me on Twitter @TVNDY. And if you want to receive a copy of our script from our webcast, send us an email at info@tv-ndy.ca, and we'll send you a script from all the notes from our webcast, so you can read everything that you listened here today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Please, thanks, Christian, for helping out. And please join us next week.
Take care.
Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.